Hello, and welcome back to Podcast with a K. I'm your host, Carla with a K, and you are listening to WECS 90.1 FM or Twitch or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. I'm not the boss of you. You make that choice, and you did because you're here. I am joined in the virtual studio once again by fan favorite and returning guest, Dylan, and we also have a treat in that another fan favorite and returning guest, after years, I think, is here with us. Arturo! Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being back.
Dude, I'm so thrilled to have you. Arturo's episodes have always been like very enlightening and eye-opening, and I actually wanted to take the opportunity, because this episode is a special episode because it will be releasing on National Honesty Day, which is April 30th. And so, it's an episode about being honest and open and vulnerable, and then also hot takes and confessions that were submitted anonymously by you, the listeners. But Arturo, I gotta confess, your last episode, I think, was one of my favorites because you explained the newest things happening in the Star Wars universe to me as someone who had never seen Star Wars. And it's the funniest format because every time that I go back, looking through clips or looking for something, whenever I come across that episode, I'm just laughing at myself because I'm like, oh yeah, that's crazy. And I have no idea what you're talking about. But since then, I have actually, at the very least, seen all of the Star Wars movies and Andor, which Andor is my new hyperfixation. So going back and listening through that episode with the knowledge that I have now, I'm like, man, this conversation would actually hit nowadays.
Yeah, no. First of all, you're watching Andor. That show is amazing. I don't know if you started watching season 2, but it started really good. And then, not that you mentioned that, this last weekend I went to the movie theaters to watch the re-release of episode 3.
Oh,
So that was pretty cool. It was actually my first time watching it in movie theaters because I was a kid. I didn't get to watch it in movie theaters, so it was pretty magical seeing it in the big screen. So yeah, I'm really happy that you actually watch all the movies. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Dude, it's dope. I'm 100% the type of person where it's like, you tell someone, oh, you should watch this, you should listen to this. And everyone's like, yeah, I'll get around to it. I actually will. That's my biggest point of pride is I will always be there for whatever the homies need me to be there, even if it's just, you'll watch this movie. Because, there's always something new to gain, even if what you gained is you really hated that movie. Which I didn't. I'm actually enjoying Star Wars a lot. And there's so much universe to get into.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you don't have to get fixated on the Skywalker saga. You can watch the Clone Wars, or you can watch the animated shows, which provide more lore and more information about the universe. So maybe I have a few shows that if you haven't watched, I could recommend.
Yeah, put me on. I got put on to Andor by one of the homies, Zach, who's been on the show before. And he's actually always telling me the real lore is in the video games. The games have a lot of the content, and I'm just like, man, I have to actually lock in, just dedicate a year to Star Wars so I can get caught up.
The funny thing is that it's a little weird right now because there's the canon universe, and then there's the what they call Star Wars Legends. So before Disney bought Star Wars, all the video games were canon, all the books were canon. But when Disney bought it, they kind of pick and choose certain material within, that was already existing to be canon.
See.
So they're slowly bringing some of that stuff back into Disney canon, such as, the Ahsoka show has brought a lot of Star Wars legends. So yes, it does, a lot of the video games and books provide a lot of the lore, but most of it is not canon to the Disney, I guess, universe. But they are starting to bring some of the fan favorite stuff back, so it's really exciting. But I do agree though, the video games do provide a lot of lore and stuff from the universe. My favorite one it's called Star Wars the Force Unleashed. So that's a one that I highly recommend playing.
All right, noted. We will be definitely doing another deep dive within the next, insert time period here, but sold. I'm in.
Dylan, I can talk about it.
Oh, I know. Dylan, are you at all into Star Wars, or is this conversation just over
Oh
your head?
no, no, mm-mm, mm-mm. I'm a purple lightsaber guy. And so if you are a fan, you should know what that means.
Yep,
I have
same.
no idea what that means, but I accept it.
So no, yeah, um I did at the point when I started getting into Star Wars, it was I think I think I was 10. So I was kind of late to it, because I know a lot of the people that I talked to were into it before that,
Me getting
and
into it
the
in my
reason
20s.
because yeah, I mean there's never like a wrong time, right? But like, I think I got into it because I watched and a lot of people are going to hate me when I say this. I watched a Star Trek movie and I just was just like, what is this? And I was just like, I think I only found like one of them interesting. For some reason, I couldn't get into the other ones. So one thing I like to do with people once in a while is that if I'm saying bye to them, I'll just go like this, and they just kind of like look at me weird. But long story short, that means like live long and prosper. But that's Star Trek reference. But no, I got to Star Wars because I think in Mexico, Star Wars, just like as Dragon Ball Z, is a huge thing. It's been a
Yeah.
huge influence for a lot of us. So I think that's another reason why I got into it. And then again, my love for movies. I just love movies. I love how movies, like you guys explained it right, how they can basically go into a whole like universe from like animation to TV series to the movies themselves. And
Film
so
is just such a good format, man.
yeah,
So
so
glad cinema's back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that we got Star Wars talk out of the way, like I said, that's been weighing on me. I'm just really glad that we get to have this space where I can tell you I did take your recommendation seriously, and I did get into Star Wars.
That's a lot of movies to watch. There's
Dude,
like
so
at least
much.
9 movies from the main series, and then you got the spin-off. So props to you for watching all of them.
Dude, hell yeah. Can't nobody say I'm not a real one.
Yeah.
Speaking of real ones, we have some real content for you today. Ooh, you thought the segues were gone? Hell no, the segues are here forever. We have some hot takes and confessions, like I said, submitted by our dear listeners, aka you listening to this right now. I'm gonna let you guys choose. Are we gonna do hot takes first or confessions first?
Let's do some hot takes. Let's spice it
Yeah.
up a little.
Let's start with hot takes, work our way in. There's range to these. We have some that are, interpersonal, we have some that are a little bit political, and then we have some that I'm just like, you know what? Real. All right. I thought we could maybe start with some hot takes from the listeners, and then just to keep things fair, we'll do some hot takes of our own.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
So, the first hot take we have, well, I'll ease us in here. Pouring cereal before milk into a bowl is the red flag. That is the
I
definition of a hot take because it's wrong.
I don't know. I think I agree with it.
You are
I
I'm actually the type of person that actually pours cereal first before I pour my milk.
no. That's the right way to do it. This person is saying if you
Wait,
pour
I said it was
cereal before milk, that's a red flag. They're doing milk first, cereal second.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's messed up.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with that person.
Listen, I am not here to tell you how to live your life, but you're living it wrong. I will cast judgment, all right? This is not a safe space. Dylan, your thoughts?
I have two close people in my family that used to do that. So it'd be a little hypocritical of me of judging them, but I'm not gonna lie, I did judge them when I saw them do that. They have changed now that have it. I think they have. Um, but then again, I feel like I can't be fully judgmental about it because I think one of my hot takes is it's kind of similar to it, but not really. But yeah, just I'll just I'll just keep my words short on this one. But yes, that's not. I don't think that's the right way. I feel like that. I feel like if I was to wake up one morning and I was to see that, I would yeah, I would internally judge you. Yeah.
I be judging.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
the
would give it.
consensus is in fix your life.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I don't like. I wish they would provide their like reasoning as to why.
I guess
Because like I'm
maybe
so confused.
the way that I would try to justify this if I were supposed to be on this person's side is if you do the milk first, you can always add more cereal as you need it, so you end up with the perfect ratio of milk to cereal. Because sometimes you pour too much cereal into your bowl, and there's not enough space for milk. To which I would simply say, "You're an adult. Learn to pour cereal."
I'm like the opposite. I pour a lot of like cereal, and then I slowly pour milk if I
Like
need
a
more.
dash of milk.
So, so maybe I kind of get it now for them, but I guess he loves milk more than cereal. I love cereal
Man.
more than milk.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That's why.
real milk enjoyers.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, fix your life.
Fix your life. All right, second hot take we have here. This one made me laugh so much, and I remember having seen it on Instagram, so I found it and I actually posted it to the podcast account story because I agree. I have talked about this kind of in passing on my stream whenever I'm working on something, but it is a hill that I will not die on because I will fight to the death and it won't be mine, okay? The phrasing I will say is a little harsher than I would normally say it, but it says, "We need a slur for people who are new to a hobby and already own the most expensive gear." I'll let y'all talk first because, like I said, this is a conversation that I think I have too often.
I can't think of one, but that's pretty funny.
Wait, I'm not gonna lie. Now that one went kind of over my head. Wait, so we need a new hobby. Wait, hold on. What?
The sentence says, "We need a slur
hmm
for people who are
hmm
new to a hobby but already
hmm
own the most expensive gear." So, somebody who begins to
Oh,
play
okay,
music
okay.
and instead of buying, a guitar from Walmart goes and buys, I don't know, a Gibson or something. I don't.
I don't know. It just seems like try hard behavior right there.
I was gonna say yeah, try hard. I think
But
try hard
that
is
can't be a slur.
Yeah. My personal gripe with this, especially ever since I started streaming, is whenever you start making content, at least back in the day, it was for fun. You wanted to share it with your friends, you wanted to share it with your family. Then you find out, oh, people get paid for this. It'd be cool, and so you start making more content, and then you eventually reach the era where you're like, should I just become a sellout and make what's trending? In that process, I think a lot of us find our way back into I'm gonna make stuff for fun. What's frustrating about this is other people who are watching your journey, and I'm not saying this conceptually, these are conversations that I had, which is why I have feelings about this. People are like, oh wow, like how do you do it? Like how'd you get started? What do you use? And I like to ball on a budget, right? My camera right now is my old iPhone from 10 years ago. The mic that I'm using is the mic on a headset that kind of works sometimes, but it sounds nice, right? Like I have like a Franken setup of just things that I have that still work, but why would I need to upgrade? I could have $1,000 camera, I could have $1,000 mic, but this works fine. And you can't really tell unless you're an audiophile or you're someone who like does this for a living. And so I have friends that like wanted to get into it and wanted to get started, and they're like, yeah, I bought a Sony Alpha. And I'm like, oh, are you gonna like start, doing video and like vlogs at least? Are you gonna, put it to work? Oh no, it's my stream camera. And I'm like, you're using a Sony Alpha only as a stream camera? Okay, well, so, what settings do you use? Like, do you have like an art lens or something? Are you gonna, do something intricate, or is it just like a face cam? It's just a face cam. Oh, okay, well, is your set, is it a dark room? Like, do you have a bunch of flashing lights? I'm trying to justify why someone needs a camera that is so beautiful and so pristine and has crazy low light capabilities and a fast reaction time. All of the perks of having that camera because I do photo and video, so I'm excited about this camera. Only to find out that camera is sitting on a desk tripod on auto mode, and that's it. And I'm like, you're wasting so much money on something you don't need. for something you're not even sure if you want to do. What is wrong with you? And the same goes for the rest of the setup, right? Like a $5,000 PC with the craziest graphics card, and it's like there's a shortage on these, and you're using it to play Sims? Come on. So that's my hot take. I agree. Those people suck.
I always like seeing those interactions. Um, it's because they'll probably spit out like like you said, like the first couple words. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's this type of camera, this type of model," and then you come along or you see someone who knows about this stuff, and then they start throwing terminology like, "Oh, like yeah, what settings and like and what lens and all this stuff and everything," and then you can kind of see that person like choking up, or they're like, "Oh, I'm not worried about that. Like it all does it for me," and you're just like, okay, so you don't know what you're doing, but you feel like you needed it, and yeah, it's this conversation it's aging pretty well.
Yeah. And
I
you
think.
know what? No, you can go ahead.
Oh no, I just like a quick point that I realized is that like a lot of these people are new and then they follow like all these big streamers and people that make content and a lot of them have like their gear listed, so they think
Yeah.
that automatically if they buy this camera or this microphone, then that would, I don't know, automatically just give them subscribers, because it's good
Yeah.
quality. But I think you don't. The equipment is the least important part. It's more about like your personality and like what type of content you bring. But I
Mhm.
think it's just like a lot of misconception that if you have the best equipment, then you're most likely to like, I guess, blow up, right? But honestly, it's not about that. It's more about just like making good content. And a lot of people like I was guilty of it in the past too. Like I'm big into photography, so I bought this really expensive camera, but like you know, even for photography, you don't need an expensive camera. You just need the skills, and then you need, the knowledge to, I guess to take good pictures or take good video. And
Well, I will
um,
say you actually took your camera out and used it, you went out into the world,
yeah,
and I remember you used to post like your color palette and your settings with your photos, and I was like, "Oh my god, sick. Someone got a really cool piece of equipment and this is what they're doing with it." Cuz that's I'm not like meaning to cut you off. It's just that's the exact point I
no,
was
no,
going to
yeah,
make.
yeah,
Was just like I like seeing people do something cool with it, cuz for me, I know that this emotion comes from like a degree of jealousy, but the other half of it is just that because I'm not going to go spend $1,000 on a camera that I don't need because I don't have $1,000 to do that with in the first place. But even if I did, I was raised to ball on a budget, and that's how I'm going to live my life, even if I'm a billionaire. And so I'm sitting here, and I want to live vicariously through you, who has a really cool piece of equipment. And so I'm sitting here like so excited, only for you to just shoot me in the heart and just be like, I don't know, it has auto setting, and I'm like, why did you do this? Just get a little Logitech webcam and call it a day.
yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just I guess some people think that it'll automatically make them better, but I think it just depends on the content that you make. I think the equipment is just, yeah, maybe sometimes the equipment does play a part, but most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah, the personality definitely matters more, and I
Yeah,
feel like that's something that gets lost because people also will mimic people who are already creating. It's just a little tangent off of it. I feel like you're completely right. Like
yeah,
people will see equipment lists and they're like, "Oh, if I have that, I'll make it big." Right? If I do this, I'll make it big. And it's like honestly, I value so much more creators that are doing stuff off of their iPhone and are just entertaining to watch than someone like if I click on your channel and you have like 100 subscribers and you have the best setup, but you're just sitting there silently, staring at your phone instead of trying to engage like the one viewer that you do have. Like, yeah, those
mhm,
days suck, but you have someone willing to participate with you. And so
yeah,
it's like my biggest pet peeve because, I'll click around, I'll lurk, I'll see like what my friends are doing, I'll see what like their friends are doing, because people like shout each other out all the time. And so like I'll go and I'll actually check. I'm like, all right, sure, your buddy is gonna be playing Valorant today. Okay, let's go see what they're doing. And it's just like they already died, and so the other people are playing. And then there's someone in the chat being like, "Oh man, nice try, GG." And then the dude's not even paying attention. He's just on his phone and like looking. You can see him look up at the camera or where I assume the monitor is, like checking if anyone's there. Doesn't even respond to the one person, just goes back to their phone. And I'm like, you have a crazy setup and you have a community. that you're not engaging. That's why you have 1 million followers, 100 subscribers, and only 1 viewer. You're not doing your part as an entertainer. You know, you're only here to flex.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Indeed. All right, moving on. This one's, I guess, kind of related in that it's a little bit about the struggle. It says, pain is not purpose. People talk a lot about sacrifice being a motivator, but the real motivator is happiness or fulfillment. We are more selfish than we realize.
I disagree. I disagree. I think I said this in the last episode. I value generally peace over happiness, and that's something that maybe took me. I guess when did I start having a conscious? What, maybe 5 years old, right? Maybe. So let's see. I'm
So
20.
I'm not laughing at you. That's just a great sentence.
Yeah. So let's see. 23 years. So yeah, it took me around like 23 years to realize this, but peace over happiness, because happiness can come and go, but peace is priceless. I just think maybe that the person that stated this um, has had a void in those emotions, that now they are realizing that that's something that they can um, grasp on, to feel like they can, like, uh, motivate themselves. Because I think anytime someone goes through like a loss, and it doesn't have to be like someone just passing away, right? It can be like, I don't know, like when you didn't get this job, you broke up with who you a significant other who you saw a future with, you lost something that meant to you in a sentimental way. I think people's first reaction is obviously, yeah, to grieve, but then they always find a way to grasp themselves onto something, so that they can push themselves. And right, some people will start going to the gym, some people will start, reading the Bible, some people will start, get into a new hobby. But I feel like without enduring pain, then you never really actually, you know live through that experience. So I don't like, it's just, it would be like it would be like your friend whose parents are still together is trying to tell you, hey, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand your pain, and your parents are going through a divorce. Like, yeah, maybe you can understand the feeling of loss, but can you actually really understand the whole picture? I don't know. That's just my own thought about it. I feel like pain. I feel like pain itself can define you as a person. You either let it get the best of you, or you either let it build that character out of you.
Would you say you're
So
doing it on behalf of the pain, though, or to get away from it? Because I kind of see where this comment is coming from.
I'm doing it in behalf of the pain.
Okay.
It's never a good thing to run away from the pain, because if you are running from the pain, then basically you're not really processing that trauma.
You embrace it. You let it fuel you.
Yeah, yeah. I let it fuel me to a certain extent, but it's always important to process it, because eventually, if you don't, it could always come back and haunt you.
Respect.
So yeah.
Churro.
That's just my that's my intake on pain in general.
Philosophical as ever, Dylan.
Yeah, gotta,
Uh,
gotta embrace the pain.
I definitely agree with everything Dylan said. Um, I think talking about the peace and happiness part, uh, I think happiness is temporary, but like peace can be, more of a long term. That's where see myself like valuing it more than happiness, because within the last year, last year, um, I was seeking a lot of like happiness and traveling and doing stuff that I loved, but it was like I felt like I noticed that it was temporary, right? And it wasn't providing the peace that I needed. So, um, like and that's because like I was using that happiness to not experience, that grief that I was going through or stuff that I was going through in my personal life or at work. Just because I wanted to like kind of get my head into a different mode, but it wasn't like something that would last me a long time. So, um, I think it's really important, what you guys mentioned is that you have to process those feelings out, because that's the only way that you'll find that inner peace that you're looking for. So within, I guess personally speaking for me, I started, going to therapy and stuff like that, and that kind of has helped me a lot, kind of finding that inner peace within myself. So, um, yeah, like it's cool, to find happiness, but it's also really good for you to also experience every single feeling that you can, because that helps you learn and process a lot of thought stuff, so that if you're feeling that way again in the future, you know how to like get out of that. I guess maybe if it's holding you down, or if it's affecting you, then the next time you experience that, you know how to get out of it. So that's kind of like my 2 cents out of it.
Sure.
But I do agree that it's um you just gotta let yourself feel. I think, especially I guess for our culture, like Hispanic culture,
Yeah.
it's we're definitely not taught, or especially like we're definitely not taught to like feel and be okay with feeling sad sometimes, or like be like because like sometimes you tell your parents like, or they start questioning why you feel sad, or like like stuff
It's
like
like that
that.
SNL bit where it's I think the Bad Bunny Pedro Pascal episode where the girlfriend and the guy are like, they're playing the mom and the aunt, and what's the line? She's like, yeah, it's like, when he was diagnosed with depression, I was there for him. And she's like, mi hijo does not have depression. He just likes the dark. He tried to get depression when he was a kid, and I told him, don't do that. Do something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
It's funny.
yeah,
I was
and like
actually going to mention the cultural side of it, but almost on the opposite end. I think, you're not supposed to like be like, "Oh, I'm sad today," because there's real problems that you have faced. But that's why I think my mentality has shifted away from pain being the purpose. Like, I agree. Peace is undervalued and happiness is temporary, right? If you're happy today, but you're not happy with yourself and who you are at the end of the week, then it's like, sick, you got a cool experience, but where do you go from there and what do you do with that, right? Which is when you have to take that discomfort and that pain and do something with it. But
mhm,
to touch on the sacrifice and fulfillment part of the take, I feel like we as a culture put a lot of emphasis on sacrifice, right? And so it's
yeah,
like, oh, well, I gave this up so you could have that. And so you're raised with the mentality of you have to give something up in order to get something better. And it's not for the sake of somebody else, it's for the sake of yourself, which is why I think the we're more selfish than we realize sentence kind of hit me, because I have always been the type of person that's like, we're more than our pain, we're more than our stories, right? Like, I struggled
yeah,
for a million years to get here, but meeting you guys and meeting everyone that we met kind of opened my eyes to it's like, well, yeah, but everyone has a tragic sob story. That's not special. It
mhm,
is whenever you're the only person in a room that's ever lived a real life, which I think from where we're all from, our like home states and our home bases, like we're used to being the only person that lived a hard life. But whenever you meet other people who had a similar life almost to the letter, it's like, oh, but we all made it and we're all fine and we're sitting here talking about it, right? So that's
mhm,
kind of where I turn away from that mentality, because it's a huge emphasis culturally, again, to like, you're almost not allowed to be happy unless you have felt pain, right? It's like, oh, sick, but like, what did you do to get here? Um, and I feel like, I agree with parts of y'all's take and of this one, right? I agree, pain is not purpose. I feel like we're more than that. We have all suffered, but we all kind of keep making it. Like, we're still alive the next day. So
yeah,
does that really matter? I kind of I side more than with happiness with fulfillment, right? Like I've you talked about career and grief, right? Like I've had moments in which it's like, man, the day to day is great, but I'm coming home and I hate the situation that I'm in. I hate who I've become through it. And so for me, it's more about finding fulfillment, whether it's, doing the podcast or talking with my friends or, playing a new Star Wars video game, like whatever it is that makes me feel like I've achieved peace that day or in that moment. That's kind of the purpose for me, right? The purpose is finding fulfillment rather than overcoming the pain. Learn to value one more than the other because life is very long, but I focus more on making it worth living.
Think the way I see it, like, yeah, I agree with like finding fulfillment, and that's like for me, like, yeah, like I don't have to endure the pain, but like there's finding other ways in which I can, like not have to endure the pain all the time, right? And one of the things that you mentioned is fulfillment. I think that's also that I kind of been learning how to
Hmm.
practice and doing things that I really enjoy and not put myself in situations where like I have to deal with the pain all the time,
Yeah.
right? So, um, one of the outlets that I found, is like photography. Is like I started getting more into it within the last year and kind of like learning stuff. And I guess people have different ways in which we find fulfillment and stuff like that. But for me, that was a good way to find fulfillment because it got me out into nature. I love nature, and I love like landscape photography. So I was doing two things that I really enjoyed the most. So yeah, I definitely agree with your point.
Yeah. See, this is such a nice, wholesome hot takes conversation. I feel like we should be ripping each other's throats out, but unfortunately, we're all too like, I think we're all too empathetic in this specific call right now.
Yeah,
We're just getting there. We just like
yeah.
start and get out there.
Don't worry, the confessions are crazier, but I'm glad that we're kind of, even if we're not like fully on the same side with the hot takes, I'm glad these are good conversations. This is why we do the podcast.
I feel like one last thing. I feel like I've, I also feel like maybe the way of how a person can see which side of the coin they rather lean on is based on how they were also raised, right? Like you mentioned that a lot of our background when it comes to Hispanic parents are just like, I sacrifice this so that you can have this,
Hmm.
and there's a huge blind spot right there where like, okay, there was a lot of sacrifice, but there was not a lot of emotional guidance.
Mhm,
Yeah.
So not having that emotional guidance, it just you you kind of out of conform a lot to the point where you become an adult and you realize like that was not okay. Like, like uh, you know, you, get when they would hit you, with a chancla with a belt, and you would go through a beating, and it's just out of nowhere, like maybe 2 3 hours later they'll come into your room, they'll be like, oh, are you hungry?
Dude.
yeah.
And that was their way of saying like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
um but I think it just really depends on the person, on how you were raised, right? Because the only reason for why I advocate about, enduring the pain is because if you think about it, um, you will always grow as a person when you're put through an uncomfortable situation.
Hmm.
And when you are going through pain and you can't seem to run away from it and you're isolated with it, the only way of survival is basically dealing with it. And I feel like that's the time when you start to analyze a lot of stuff, both internally and externally, that you kind of realize that, what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So what if it works for you to play video games and that makes you happy and that makes you, relieve your childhood and brings out that 8-year-old out of you, then yeah, let it be. But also if you feel like that, um acknowledging and changing yourself for the better is just self-fulfillment, is just, I think it's different for everybody.
For
Mhm.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
All right. kind of on the topic of selfishness, the next take is this one I don't have a lot to say about. I just agree. People who have more kids when they can't afford the ones they already have are selfish. I don't feel like this should be a hot take, but apparently it is. LMAO question mark. I agree. I think having kids when you can't afford to have kids is selfish. You know, I feel like there's kind of a baseline of like this kid is going to grow up and have an okay life with the bare minimum, but they'll be all right. You know, if you're a struggling person already, you don't need to be a struggling parent. It's not the kid's responsibility. It's not the kid's fault. But they're gonna have to grow up with that. And sure, it's gonna forge them into an absolute badass of a person when they're older. But you run the risk of them resenting who they had to grow up as, and also becoming just a piece of trash. So I like just not take that risk. You know, don't do it. If you can't afford it, don't do it. Same thing goes for having a credit card.
True.
I mean, I agree, but I can also see why. Maybe because of speaking from the culture perspective, I think I can see why people may do it. And like we're Hispanic, so like it's kind of the norm in our culture to have large families. So it could be maybe I'm not really sure, but it could be a cultural thing where um, have especially when our grandparents had large families, they did it
Yeah.
because out of necessity of like you know having extra hands to help with.
Yeah.
I come from a family. My mom's side of the family that are like farmers and that work in fields and rural areas in Mexico. So I think it was normal to have large families because they would, the kids would help around and stuff like that, right? But is it selfish in this current, climate of like this current society right now, with, how we lived? I think it depends where you live, maybe also. I don't know.
That's a good point. You started talking, and I'm like, oh, I'm viewing this from the lens of someone who grew up in the U.S., but you're right. Other countries have
Yeah.
better resources.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Like, I think it depends where you live.
I
I
could
think,
I could shift
um,
my perspective.
yeah, but yeah, for example, like you said in the US, I don't think you need to have,
In the U.S., if you can't afford a kid, do not have one.
yeah, like honestly, you can't, like,
It's
I mean, if you
impossible.
want to, nobody's stopping you, but I think that, um,
I will pull up to your house and tell you, no, stop that.
A lot of stuff can happen in 2 minutes. Just say.
uh, but yeah, no, I started thinking about it and I started realizing that it's in the US, we have all different cultures and different societies within different
Yeah.
countries. So maybe it's not the same like in the US compared to Mexico or like somewhere like in, like in South Asia or like, I don't know, like Europe, or I think it depends somewhere, but
You're right. Both of my parents have big families. Half of them came from some money, the other half came from no money. And,
mhm,
they've all managed to survive and thrive, and everyone kind of lives a better life now. So
yeah,
it kind of goes back to the beginning too, where you're not exactly a product of your environment. You choose who you're going to
yeah,
become. So you have a good point, and it is cultural, I think, as well. Some people
yeah,
can be struggling and have kids, and everyone's going to be okay. Here, it's a little
mhm.
bit harder, and by a little, I mean
So
a lot of bit. But yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Len.
So, let's say maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the average price of, sorry, I don't say price. The average money of account that would take to raise a kid up to 18 years old was like up to 180,000. That number now has rise to $220,000 now. So yeah, it's definitely a game changer. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's selfish towards the kid. I would want to use more of the word ignorant. It would be selfish to your partner, right? Because sometimes, depending on what culture you're from and how you raise your kids, some of the responsibilities as parents never tend to be split in a fair way. Right? You need to have the dad who is like what they say, like the one who builds the character, the one that makes you tough, but Why can the dad be also the person that can be the emotional guy for you, right? It doesn't always have to be the mom, right? Because we see the mom as being a nurturer. Um, I say that it's ignorant because one thing that I didn't realize is that you are even though I have siblings myself, and even though you guys might also might have siblings to you guys yourselves, if you really think about it, you were never really actually raised by the same parents,
Yeah,
right?
they become new people through having raised the first one by the time they're on to the second one.
Yeah, and then their struggles and challenges when they had the oldest one was different to when they had the youngest one.
Yeah,
So you kind of get a different perspective from every kid, but the perception of it stays the same in between siblings.
for sure.
So I want to say that it's more of an ignorant thing to do, because if you if you're not going to be responsible for that family unit, and you just want to have kids because you just can control your needs and you feel like you need to have them fulfilled, um then at that point, then there's a lot of stuff that as an individual yourself you need to work on, and one of them is being um
Self-sufficient.
disciplined. Mm-hmm. Disciplined, and then how to become um not only a parent but more of a mentor, because anyone can be a parent, but being a mentor is a little bit more challenging.
That's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see your point.
Hmm.
All right. The next one is completely unrelated to anything, and I have no segue. I just I just like this take. It says, I enjoy it too much when I hear countries punishing specifically red states on trade are doing so on purpose. I know there are innocent people in those states too, but pain has to be experienced by a lot of people to realize that their votes hurt the whole country. So we're getting political, baby.
Mm.
I think this is in
Wait,
reference to Canada having put specific tariffs and import fees on things from specifically states that had voted red in the last presidential election.
wait, did I hear this right? They said they enjoyed that red
They
states
en-
are getting penalized because of the tariffs.
yeah, they enjoy it whenever exports from those specific states are, tariffed at a higher rate. Um, and it's not the individual people's faults, but people got to people got to get it through their head. I feel like I know
Yeah,
who submitted this, but I have no notes. I agree.
I agree. But I also live in a red state, so it sucks.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. I mean, I live in
I
like
mean,
the one blue state in the South, but that's a broad stroke because politically we might be blue, but my neighbors are cool, but the next street's neighbors over, I hear the conversations they be having, and I'm like, you know what? I'll suffer a little bit so that you can understand and you can have the lesson that you need to learn. Because, like we said in the first hot take, that's our segue. Um, we all know what suffering really is. So, dude,
yeah,
whatever. I'll pay $10 eggs if it gets you to understand that you messed up.
yeah, it's like the f around, find out type
Mm-hmm.
thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's like whenever people were getting mad that everyone was like, I hope you get what you voted for. And people were like, half of the people were like, yeah, that's the point. And the other half were like, well, that's rude. And it's like, you voted for it. Why? Why is that rude?
yeah, I have conflicting feelings because I don't want to experience that, but also it's also like kind of like I guess feels nice when you see like a person that voted for for the red, and then they go like, oh, but I thought he was gonna do this and this, and then it goes
He lied.
completely opposite. It's like they find out that he lied, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's like kind of like, I guess, what's the word? Um, I guess I'm trying to blank of the word, but um,
Validating.
yeah, validating. And I was like, yeah, you up for voting this. And I'm glad you're experiencing that because you
Yeah.
should experience that. But then again, it's like, but then I'm like, I live in the same state, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to experience that because of these people that were not smart enough to
Yeah,
get
I mean,
informed.
people don't get it's a group project, right? You're shooting yourself in the foot when you shoot your neighbor, like
Yeah,
you're not going to finish the result that you wanted if someone's not able to pull their weight because you're not letting them.
yeah, but
Mm.
Dylan.
Um, I can't speak directly from other countries doing it to us. But firsthand, I'm seeing it here in the state of Iowa. So the United States Agriculture Department pretty much got hit with a budget deficit, and it's hurting a lot of the farmers here. And yeah, I won't. I will be hypocritical if my first initial reaction was to be like, well, just like Arturo said, f around and win stupid prices. Um, but at the same time, not everyone in that pool that is a farmer for sure voted for that person, and it kind of sucks, but my I guess my overall thought is just like, um, first educate yourself. Don't vote out of bias. But I know that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Think
mean,
about other
I don't
people
want to
for a
say,
little bit.
yeah, I don't want to say that I enjoy you know, seeing people, being inflicted with pain, but it's just like I do enjoy that. Hey, this is the reminder of what you so hardly believed in,
Yeah.
just because it fuel your bias, your narrow-minded way of thinking, and then now that you are suffering the consequences, you are now educating yourself, attending town halls, and then you are attacking your own senators and representatives. But then again, like, again, it shows you how their mentality works, and
I think people
how,
just don't see it like affecting people
yeah,
they know, right? They're like, "Oh, well,
yeah,
this group of people is bad." And it's like, "Yeah, but your coworker is those people,
mm,
right? Your neighbor is those people. Your
mhm,
friends are those people. You don't even know about it." And then you're
yeah,
standing with, the your favorite person only to find out they're the ones directly affected by your choice. So that's why I'm like I'll go ahead and say it out loud. It's like that's why I'm petty as hell like whenever it comes to anything political. It's like, "Homie, you wanted this. Suck it
yeah,
up. You
yeah,
ruined my life for your idealistic views, only to
hmm,
find out that it's idealistic. And, yes, it is
hmm,
all very bureaucratic and it's all, red tape everywhere. But the big decisions are going to affect the people you know until it affects you. And then when it affects you, I'm gonna be the one sitting there laughing because of all of the years that I had to live through nonsense because you were like, oh, but the
yeah,
economy. Shut up,
hmm,
dude.
yeah.
All right.
I think my last take on this. So my bad.
Yes.
I will say that I do have actually 20 extra minutes, 25 extra minutes.
Oh,
So
let's
we
go.
should be good. Um, but
2 hour
yeah, because
special.
I'm in that mood where I'm just like, uh, do I go into work early today? Maybe
No,
not.
you don't. You do the
Um,
podcast.
what's it called? But I feel like people like to shift blame. But the thing that really sucks about this is that, whatever, like, we're barely recovering from what that person did, what is it, 8 years ago, and then
Yeah.
now giving this person another 4 years. It's like we're seeing the consequence of it, but we're not going to recover from this until maybe like the next
Well,
four
yeah,
years
people don't
after
understand that every
the
presidential cycle is just recovery from the previous one, which is why everyone's like, oh,
yeah,
well, things sucked under Obama and under Biden. It's like, yeah, homie, because they were putting things back together after they were so irreparably broken the previous term, right? And it's like
Yeah.
even then people are like, oh well, this person, the Democrat did that, and it's like, yeah, but the difference is that most of us that are left or center leaning understand that people in government aren't here to be our saviors, right? They're not here to be our best friends and do what's best for us. They're doing what's best for their wallet. They're doing what's best for, international purposes. And that's going to suck a lot of the times for the individual, right? And you're going to have to trade something, right? Like, man, they said we all have to cut off our left arm, but they're also not going to drop a nuke on us. All right, well, I know I would rather not have a left arm than die in a nuclear war. So it's like, yeah, that's going to suck. Meanwhile, you have the current president saying, I'll never let go of it. The current president saying, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose any voters. Your own president just threatened one of you. Whoever the one of you is that he shoots on Fifth Avenue is going to have to be the one that dies at the hand of the president, right? It's like, why even let somebody go through with that sentence? It's like, people in power must have that same thought. Like, how much can I get away with without losing any supporters, right? This one came out and straight up told you he's willing to test that theory. And, people are going to applaud him for it.
Citizens. You guys are known as homegrowns. So, yeah.
It's crazy stuff, man. I don't know if y'all watch The Boys. I kind of got into The Boys, and there's literally a scene that's based off of this exact conversation in which, like, the main big, like, Captain America equivalent of a superhero is at some, like, protest or whatever because he's beefing with another superhero, and he straight up obliterates a guy. And everyone goes quiet for a second. And then people cheer him on for shutting up the guy. And it's like, yo, your favorite superhero just killed somebody out of spite. How do you know you're not next? It's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
What's funny? What's funny with that show is that it was recorded like, a few years ago. And then it just so happens to line up with the current political like climate
I know.
and like how like it just seems like you guys knew what was gonna happen and then it just perfectly matched up. I
I've
love
said
that show.
this. Yeah, it's a really well written show. Some of it's a little bit like too on the nose, and I'm like, I know, I get it, but I'm also not the target audience because I'm already on their side. You know what I'm saying? But I was saying this
Yeah.
the other day. It's like people don't understand a cautionary tale anymore, and they're following all of the bad stories like they're tutorials, right? It's like you don't know a warning sign anymore, even if someone's grabbing the sign and like beating you on the head with it. Open your
Yeah.
eyes. Like, I feel like such a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, wake up, sheeple. And it's like, I'm not even saying anything that's crazy and, out of left field. I'm just saying, this guy threatened you. Don't trust him. And people are like, oh, but he must have had a good reason. It's like, all right, great. I'll wait around for you to find that out the hard way. I'm a stay in my corner, out of the way and safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
On that note, we've more than reached our halfway point. I think we're overdue for a song break. Arturo, you get to be our middle song. Give us something you're listening to, something you're vibing with. What are we doing?
So I'm listening to this is probably my favorite song of all time right now.
Okay.
It's by Rauw Alejandro, and I don't know. This song is just a really cool vibe because if you're driving, late night or during the night or maybe during the sunset, you can play this song and it's a full vibe. So it's called Desenfocao by Rauw Alejandro, and yeah, I think
It's a good one. I
it's
already have it
it's
saved to the freaking playlist. That's how you know it's a good song.
yeah. So it's such a good song.
All right, so without further ado, here is that. All right, we're back from our song break. That was the hot takes half. Now it's time for the confessions half. I was surprised. I thought the hot takes would be crazier than the confessions, but y'all's confessions had me scared. I was like, do I want to put these on the podcast? Do I just do a hot takes episode instead? Which we could have done. We reached the recording time of an hour with just the hot takes, but like I said, it's a special treat to have Dylan and Arturo in the virtual studio. So, congratulations, you get a secret surprise 2-hour special or some semblance of it. So, let's switch gears here a little bit. I'm just gonna read these through in order. I don't have the bandwidth to segue, and you'll understand why. we're starting off really strong. I'm gonna say from here on out, usually I don't mind who listens to the show. Let's consider the second half of the show 18 plus or parental guidance requested. Because the first one says, and I'm gonna put quotation marks on the side of the screen here because these are sentences I don't want clipped and taken out of context because I know how y'all are on Twitch. First confession. I have a praise kink, presumably from not being praised enough in childhood, and now I crave praise from my significant other more than anything. Discuss.
Is this like this 365 days later type of praise? Or is this type of like 50 Shades of Grey praise? Because that's two different type of praises.
No, I think those are both on the same scale, Dylan.
Okay. Okay.
But to answer your question, yes. That's exactly what this person means.
That just got me stuck on that one.
Same.
I don't know. I feel like it's a combination of a lot of stuff. Like, Go ahead,
I
Arturo.
just
I feel like you have this one.
I don't know. I'm like,
I can't believe we finally got a submission to the podcast that has all the guests speechless. This is amazing. This is gonna be the clip. It's just an entire minute of us sitting here like,
I don't know. That
thank
literally
you
has
for
me
your
speechless.
bravery. It's my biggest feedback. I will say, psychologically speaking, it is interesting that Freud was right so much of the time, considering how weird of a guy he was.
Yeah, he did a lot of.
A
He
lot
did a
of the
lot of.
yeah.
He played with snow a lot. I'm just gonna say.
I just
Yeah.
read that entire confession out loud verbatim, and I love that you find a creative way to say that he was just always doing coke.
Yeah. So.
I mean, again, psychologically speaking, I guess it makes sense. A lot of the things you live through today shape who you are tomorrow. Um, and a lot of it, I guess, manifests in moments of high emotion or passion.
But yeah, it makes sense. I mean,
I
I
don't
have
have a lot
nothing.
of like thoughts or hot takes on kinks, I suppose.
Yeah, same.
What you do in your privacy is it. I will say this has nothing to do with anything. This is just the train of thought that we're on. I've said it a lot on the stream, not on the podcast. I feel like on the podcast I try to be more um more neutral and like embracing of opposite perspectives before I share my opinion. The one kink that I've always been publicly a hater of, furries, dude. I don't get it. Don't be a furry in my space.
Oh, I was gonna say that. This guy looks like a furry, like. Well, I know maybe if you're a furries because you feel safe while being in that type of clothing and wearing that
It's character
mask,
role play,
whatever.
but why did you
Yeah.
have to choose to be an animal specifically in and I know not all furries do it as a kink. I know it's the square rectangle square conversation. I'm specifically talking
Mm,
about the furry kink. Why? Don't do that. It's weird. Like I said, this
Yeah.
is not a safe space and you are being shamed.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think I personally find it weird because, like, why? Like, it it just threads into other like aspects that are kind of makes you question,
Yeah.
like, like like they're animals, so like, why do you find that as a kink in a sense? Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It leads into darker stuff. Like I guess the way I think about it is like, why would you do that? But
Fully agreed. Fully,
I guess
fully, fully agreed.
I guess it's like yeah. I don't like. I find it weird, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like you do you, and it's like as long as it doesn't affect me, that's fine. But
Yeah, like I don't actually care. I still think you
yeah,
deserve
yeah, yeah.
rights, I suppose. But homie, what
I'm
is
like,
wrong with you?
yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna judge you.
I remember
But
one time I was saying this on stream, and it just so happened that some like new follower slash viewer or something, like I after stream, like I'll check like and follow people back, and I was clicking on names, and someone that had just followed during like a 30-minute rant about furries was like a furry VTuber streamer, and I was like, oh my god. I felt so bad. I was like, what a trooper for having hung out the whole stream while I was like demolishing their entire existence.
I'm following.
But and following. Um I never said anything to them. So if you're that person, this is my confession to you, which is I'm sorry for being aggressive to you, but I still hold my opinions. All right.
I think overall it has to be a dominant instinct. I think that's why it is. There's no other way of to see it. If you like being praised, let's take this back to like the
Oh, back to our original
monarchy
point.
times.
We did tangent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it has to be a dominant instinct. I think that's my thing. I think that's my only thing to say about it.
All right. Moving on then. The second one is the reason that I didn't want to do the confessions originally on the stream because I don't know what this means. It just says getting away with a hit and run. And I asked some of my friends about this. I'm like, do I even put this on the show? And they're like, well, you're thinking vehicular manslaughter. Maybe they mean they hit somebody's car and didn't stick around for the insurance exchange. And I'm like, either way, that is a crazy thing to confess on the podcast.
Somebody just confessed to a real crime.
Somebody confessed to a crime on the podcast.
I was like, you're incriminating yourself right now.
And the thing is, I did
Uh,
this form fully anonymous. It didn't collect emails or anything. So, like,
mm,
your identity
Yeah,
is safe
mm.
unless, I don't know, Google logs your IP address, but I don't have access to that. So, someone that watches the show got away with a hit and run.
You couldn't go to a priest or you couldn't go to like a open space and just kind of yell this out. You felt like putting this in a podcast was like you're like, oh, like you're releasing it. You're like, finally, someone knows. I mean,
It's
if
a
you
weight off
wanted
of
to
their
put
chest,
that
yeah.
if you wanted to put that energy on us, I just want to know. I just want to let you know that I hope that wherever you're at, that when you get home, that you stab your pinky toe uh, on the corner of a table multiple times. And if that's not the case, I hope you step on a Lego because,
I hope
um,
the rest of your life is inconvenient.
yeah, yeah. I hope you go to your favorite restaurant or favorite smoothie place and they don't have your dish or they ran out of what you wanted. I don't know.
Dude,
It's
Dylan is
just
hitting them where it hurts.
no, no. Hold on though. Like, we didn't get details. It could have been like could have ran over, some Trump supporter or something.
Ooh, I'm back on their side. And here's the thing on the priest topic, it could be, I don't know if you guys are aware of this specifically, but I have for a while had a running, it's not a joke. I want to be the Pope. I want to wear a fancy gold hat and live in Italy. That seems like the best way to live life.
Mhm,
And so,
true.
maybe they felt like this was a safe space for confession because I
Mhm.
will someday be the Pope.
Probably, yeah.
Well, the only reason for why
I was,
I'm going this route is because we're missing one big thing about this, and
yeah,
that's
I was
karma.
gonna say, mm, but I
I'm
was,
just still stuck on, was this again vehicular manslaughter or destruction of property? Which criminal charge are we looking at right here?
I
I
just
wish
hope it
we
was.
got a little more details. Like, yeah, like, did you hit someone, or did you ran over something, or
Yeah.
did you ran over like your
Did you crash
ex, or
into a
did you run
mailbox or
over, or did you hit like your neighbor, or I don't know. Like, at least give us something
yeah.
Mm,
so that we can fully judge you.
Crazy, man.
true,
Crazy.
true, true.
Like I said, the confessions are crazier than the hot takes. Next one says, Oh my goodness. One time in 2022, I was working a show and I had been seeing a coworker at the time, and my coworker was at the show while the new girl I was talking to was in the crowd. The girl I was talking to actually picked up the tickets from the coworker that I was hooking up with. Damn.
But they don't know this, right? They never knew, right?
No, so unless they're listening to the show and know this person and also 2022, they have no idea. But that's crazy. That's bold to have your old chick and your new chick at the same space while you're actively still both with each of them.
Mm.
So I'm just gonna say they. I don't know if it's a he or she, but did they just invited them both at the same time to their
Well,
show?
so one of them's the coworker, but
Yeah,
they still invited the new chick,
that
knowing
takes a lot
full
of
well that
balls.
they'd have to interact at some point.
That takes a lot of balls to do that.
Yeah. Like, I guess it's partially hiding in plain sight, right? Like, why would I invite you if I was still talking to my coworker? But that's messy, dude. That's so messy.
Hey, maybe that's his kink. I don't know.
Do we kink shame? This became a do we kink shame kind of chat.
That is
Listen,
wrong.
listen. The coworker relationship, if it's not serious, I'm guessing the coworker knows about the new girl, but the new girl doesn't know about the coworker, right? The person that's at risk, I suppose, of emotional damage is the new girl. So I feel bad for her. But at the same time, if they're just talking and, she's, coming into a situation that already existed, it's not the worst thing in the world. It is ballsy, but
Yeah.
this is a morally gray area, I think. If neither of them are like serious exclusive relationships, it's more so just like a
Mhm.
respect thing. It's like, like you
Yeah.
got to tell somebody if you're hooking up with somebody else, just at the very least out of public health reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I can't say much on this one.
Oh,
I feel like
Oh.
I feel like I can't say much on
this
this
is
one.
actually
Like,
Dylan's confession.
yeah, that was not supposed to be aired live. No, I just say that I can't really say much on this one because and I think Arturo's gonna find this funny. Arturo, do you remember that one of the last things I sent you on Instagram, and it's that dog looking himself in the mirror?
Yeah.
Yeah, so um the story of the meme on when I send you it's like a dog like just basically like mimicking themselves while looking at the mirror and it's saying I'm still trying to see if I still got the dog in me. But um I don't think I've reached that. Um but I have had my own moments in the past, and I just feel like if I was to say something about this, I wouldn't be truly honest to myself.
Hmm.
And I think that's where I'm going to keep it at because I respect all the people that were part of those moments. So yeah,
Very
well,
diplomatic answer.
you know, you know,
I
He
mean,
pleads the
that's
fifth. He pleads the fifth.
he pleads the
I
fifth.
I'm playing the fifth hard right now.
Sometimes silence is louder than words, and that's where we'll leave that
Yeah.
one at.
Hmm.
All right, well, the next one's worse. I once had a threesome that involved a married man. He was only involved to a very specific line in the sand, unlike the main guy, but I'm betting the wife didn't know anything about it. It's unlikely she would set the line in the sand rule. Dot dot dot. My bad.
Damn.
Mm.
Well,
All I'm gonna say is that I know a person that became good friends with another person of the same sex, and what started as innocent cuddling ended getting the one of the person's um how would you say this? Not, I don't want to give out too much details. I don't want to say significant other, but I want to say person who they're married to got involved um, in that activity, which I thought was crazy.
That is pretty crazy. I'll
Yeah,
say these are bold. These are bold folks. It's
That's just
on
kind of
one. Yeah.
like it seems a little unethical on the husband part because like you don't. I take it that the wife did not know,
Yeah.
and like as a person that partake in that situation, like
mm,
you definitely don't want that to happen to you, and like, but then you're kind of part of it, and like, what would you?
true.
Yeah. See, that's the thing too, and like all of these situations where someone's like, acting up in a relationship, right? Like it bears the question, who holds that burden, right? Because in this specific one, let's use this as the example. It's a threesome, right? One person, second person, third person. The first person's here as our primary participant, right? The second person is also here as a willing participant. The third person is the one with baggage. He's married and secretly participating in this situation. He's the one making that decision, right? I feel like he's who the blame falls upon.
Yeah, yeah.
If the other two people know the wife, is it their responsibility to say something? Because Dylan, in your last episode, we talked a little bit about this. There was also a submission asking for advice about whether or not they were being unfaithful in the first place. And so the question then becomes, right? Like, do you say something? Are you afraid to say something because the blame falls back on you for participating also? Or, you know, was it just like something that's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things and all it's going to do is hurt someone who was otherwise living a blissful life?
Let's go back to what I said earlier, right? So about peace and happiness, right? So, uh, so first of all, they're all guilty of it because I mean they're all participated in the activity, right? And at that time, they were pretty happy doing it. But then
Safe to
and
say.
it's a backfiring and it's a backfiring on someone, and then that person is no longer happy, but they are no longer at peace.
That's the thing though. That's where it gets muddy. It's like, yes, the three participated in it, but no one said, "Hey, married man, come be a part of this." Married man
Yeah.
decided to be a part of this despite being married, right? So my thing is just like how much blame falls on the other two people or how much responsibility, right? Like
It
this
Oh no,
person just said dot 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 my bad. So I'm guessing there's like a degree of guilt, but not a degree of responsibility because they're telling us on the
everyone's guilty.
podcast instead of the
Everyone's
wife.
guilty.
You think
I
guilt
think
is
Everyone's guilty.
involved
I think it depends on like if they knew that he was married going into it,
hmm
then yes, they're all guilty, right? But if they didn't know and then they
and
just
then
find
they
out
find
after,
out.
then I mean there's still some type of guilt in there, but not like as bad as like knowing beforehand.
See, that's what I
But I
think
still
changes. If you knew already, guilt. If you knew afterwards, responsibility. Like I feel like that scale changes.
I think you're guilty if you knew after, like after it happened and you find out and you didn't, you know, if you didn't do anything about it. Because I think if I was like the spouse of that person, I would want to know, right? Because I would not want to be with that person if nobody told me. Then that makes you already guilty, right? If
Yeah.
because you're participating in that, and but if and it goes back into like there's like no peace in it.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel bad about it. So ideally, I would want someone to tell me if my partner is cheating,
Yeah.
because like I don't it's kind of that's
I would just rather know.
yeah,
See, it's
but
weird because I feel like that's true, but if this is again someone who's confessing this on the podcast, right? Like, what is the degree of closeness to it? Because say that they do go and they tell the wife, "Hey, this happened," and the wife's like, "Who even are you? Like, why would I believe you?" And if she doesn't believe them, that would still, put a wrench into their relationship. but in a different way, because it's like, yo, why is this rando talking to me? So it's like there's only so much you can do, because the responsibility then falls upon the other person to either believe you or do something about it or decide to accept it and move on. And so that's kind of where I do see Dylan's point about protecting everyone's peace. But as someone who just likes to know things, I would be like, dog, if you know something, just tell me and let me handle it.
think
There's no point of everyone living a secret around you and treating you like some like poor precious little doll. It's like, homie, just tell me. I can handle
yeah.
it. I'm grown.
I guess for me, it's like the way I see it is like I don't like. Yeah, of course, if it's true, right? You tell that person, but you can't really control how people react.
Yeah.
hmm hmm
So it's up to them if they want to like you know investigate it and find out, right? But I think yeah, it also comes back to selfishness. It's like it's just protecting your own peace.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I see both ways, but I think at the end of the day, it's protecting about your image and your peace. And but it's just I think it's really complex. It's just situational based. It depends on the situation, like
Yeah.
like but
Specifically, I don't believe any of us have been involved in this specific situation. But
No.
as far as relationships go, like this is a tangent, and this one I guess is like just a little bit more personal than we've been for most of the show, but like as far as like faithfulness goes, like have y'all been on any and or all sides of the equation? Cuz I feel like I've found myself in situations where I find out like I'm the other girl, right? Or there'll be situations in which I find out like, there is another girl, and the situation wasn't even actually that serious because it wasn't like, exclusive or official or anything. And it's just like, having been on both sides, I feel like is tough. And then also having been on the side of it's like, well, I'm not talking to anyone exclusively or officially, but then someone gets mad that I'm not dedicating my time only to them because they were doing that. And it's like, well, we never had that conversation. So it's like, I feel like I've been on all three sides where it's like, I was the one that was doing the wrong thing, whether as the participant or the initiator, or the one that's been getting done dirty. And so I'm like, in all three scenarios, right? Like, there's a good way and a bad way to look at it, but I don't, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think of it like from all perspectives. And I'm like, I know what I would ideally like to happen in these scenarios, but at the same time, it didn't happen that way and everything's fine regardless.
I think that everyone's guilty. I think that what happens is that whoever basically initiated this can have the risk of getting the blame shifted to them more heavily than the other two parties involved. But I think the main part that sometimes people tend to overlook is that we all have to face the same consequences, which is either getting hurt, losing trust, or it's basically not feeling being uh, appreciated. And so I
Which one of
think
the
it's kind
three do
of
you think
difficult.
is the worst?
Um,
I would say losing trust.
yeah, I would say losing trust because that can carry disappointment.
I
Um,
would honestly put losing trust as worse than personally feeling hurt or undervalued.
mhm, yeah, yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I feel like I'm a lot of the mindset of like, I'm only responsible for my actions. Like you said, you can't really control how other people react. And so I think that also goes for the other party. It's like, I'm not your moral compass. I'm not here to tell you what the right thing is to do. I'm only doing what I want to do in this moment. Right. And it's like sometimes my moral compass is stronger than other times. And so, I will handle the situation how I choose to handle it. But I only hold the responsibility for my actions. Yours were your choices.
Yep.
That's not how I've always thought. That's been a very, like, I would say recent protect my peace kind of mentality. Because I feel like
This
in a
is
lot
why
of
you don't get
situations.
yourself. Yep.
don't get yourself
But
in
this
those
is like,
situations in the first place, sure.
hmm
But I feel
yeah,
like in the past, it's like, I feel like, oh my God, this is awful. I have to fix this. And it's like, do I? Did I break it? That's my take.
Yeah.
yep.
Um, it's a sticky situation for sure. I think it's just depends on the situation. I don't know. It's just I personally would like to know if I was the person, but it's just there's a lot of factors to consider. So
Yeah.
and I've never been to that situation, so I don't know what I would do, or even if I was even if I was like to be the person that I take in that, but was not the husband.
Hmm.
I don't know if I would tell the wife, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's just situational. I don't know,
Hmm.
but I guess you just gotta do what you do to, I guess, just find your peace and whatever it
Yeah.
takes. I don't know.
I don't. It would depend on how serious the situation is. I think on if I would tell the wife as a participant.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I'd be like, dude, my bad. This one's tough,
yeah,
which isn't the good person thing to do. I know, but humans are inherently selfish. I keep thinking about the first half of the show where the person said we're more selfish than we think.
yeah, yeah. We are. Yeah,
So your survival instincts will make you protect yourself first.
yeah. Hmm.
Man,
Well, good luck to that person.
good luck. All right. The last one that we got submitted is kind of one we talked about last time Dylan was on the show, but it says, I'm in love with a guy who I've known on and off for 4 years, but I don't think he cares about me.
Move on.
Oof. Move on.
Once again, move on.
It's
I need
four
to clip
years,
this.
bro.
I need to clip this and include Dylan's last show where he was like, move on, before I even finished the
Can you
question.
can you make like an emote on Twitch or something with Dylan
Move on.
saying "move on"?
Yeah. Dylan, I need you to record like 4 clean takes of you saying move on, because this is going to be
Yeah.
a sound clip.
Oh, I gotta hold on. Gotta get myself ready. Like just
Action.
different ones. Move on. Move on. Move on. Move on.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Perfect, Zach,
Yeah.
perfect.
I just feel like, I mean, at
4
that
years is
point,
a
bro,
long
like
time.
like uh, you could have gotten that degree by that time. You could have became I don't know, got a trade certificate. You could have became the next pope or something. I don't know. Like you could have find out that birds are not real. I don't know. It's just
So true.
like 4 years. 4 years. Like at least like please tell me that during those 4 years you were able to experience something with someone else, because that's telling me that you were always that best friend who always believed that they had a chance, and you just had this person date multiple people, but you just didn't have enough courage to be like, I like you.
I was going to say 4 years is a long time to be in love with a guy and still think he doesn't care about you. Have you told him you're in love with him at this point? Because again, 4 years is a long time. And
Mhm.
maybe no, it's not. I was going to say maybe it's just because of who I am as a person. No, 4 years is crazy long to be in love with somebody. Just say something. I am also often the person to make the first move because I don't want to wait 4 years to figure it out. Like if I like someone, I feel like to begin with it's pretty obvious, but eventually like I'll reach my breaking point and I'll be like, you know, I'm okay with this not changing the relationship. I'm down to still be friends. I don't particularly care if you break my heart right now or not. I'll be good in a week. Like I'll be all right. But here's the sitch. I like you. What's up? And 4 years is crazy. My first my first boyfriend, I remember I liked him for maybe 2 years or 3 before I said anything. But it's also because we didn't see each other often enough that I wanted to ruin the times that we did see each other. Because then, if I say something and he doesn't like me, the next time I see him, it's going to be kind of awkward because of that. And I'm going to waste that until the next time I see him. So that one I held on to for a little bit before it was too much for me to handle. And then, like I said, we ended up dating, like on and off. It wasn't great. It should not have happened. It was not meant to be. But, shot the shot, worked out, moved on.
Move on.
Again, to say 4 years and not even think he cares, not even he likes, he cares, that's heavy, dude. I don't like that for you.
Yeah, like even if you were like friends, like he still doesn't care as a friend. Like,
Right?
what are you doing? Like, move. Yeah, it sucks to hear. It's gonna be other people out there for you. I think it's hard, but if you if he doesn't care for you, then
Yeah.
it's not gonna change.
And also, I guess follow-up question, she says, they say, I don't think he cares about me.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, I don't think they've had this conversation. I don't think they've asked.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. If you're not like at least shooting your shot, then you're gonna keep leaving like that until you find out, and then it's gonna be another 4 years.
I also feel
So
like
don't you want to know? Don't you want to know now? Like, don't you just want to like?
Well, I feel like
We're
Tell
gonna
part
have
of it
a
might be that they don't want to rock the boat or they don't know how to move on, right? Because it's like when you've liked somebody for such a long time, you build up this like pedestal for them and why you like them and you justify why
Yeah.
you like them for so long without anything really happening. Um and so it's kind of hard to knock them down. And I feel like the best lesson to learn, and it's unfortunately when we learn the hard way, right, is that even your idols kind of suck, right? Like everyone sucks. We're all awful, selfish people, and that's okay because we're all living life for the first time, learning how to not be selfish, awful people. And so, I feel like you just need to find something to humanize this guy. Realize that he's also just a person. And if he's a person not treating you right, why do you want to be with him anyway?
Hmm.
yeah. There's also a flaw in her and the person's wording, because they go like, "I don't think." Okay, you don't think,
That's the
so
end of the
technically
sentence. You're not thinking.
you don't you, you don't think. You don't know. The thing is that like it would have been more better if that person would have stated like, "Hey," and I do know that they do not care, because you thinking it, that's you assuming it, and then you using the word think kind of lets me know that maybe you struggle with your confidence,
Yeah.
and you are this is the reason for why it's been 4 years, because you've never really taken upon yourself to just have that conversation with that person, just say, hey, like we've been friends for this long, and and I like you, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
yeah.
like this is a person that maybe like has a lot of anxiety and like maybe struggles with overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's also why maybe they haven't kind of brought this up with whoever person they're in love with. But the
Yeah.
thing I would say to that person is just work on yourself first, right? Like work on being confident, work on, let yourself feel. And then I think that will kind of help you and kind of, build the courage, to ask them,
Yeah.
because I think, as someone who's also anxious and who had also struggled being, a shy person, once I started working on my emotions the way I felt, I think I started becoming a little more confident um and I saw that in my relationships with people. Like it was a struggle for me to even make new friends. Even for college, I think it was really hard for me. But once I started working on myself and working on the emotions, that anxiety, I think that, made it a little bit better. So
Yeah.
my one piece of advice is just to, it seems like maybe you're going through a lot of anxiety or you're not where you want to be. So I think just work on yourself, maybe, and that will help maybe build up that courage, to maybe
Well said.
possibly tell. But yeah, but 4 years is a lot. So maybe you should start taking care of yourself then.
Move on.
Yeah, my advice is take 4 shots of whatever you drink. Make sure that's 40% proof. Play Marvin's Room or Don't by Bryson Tiller, and then pick up the phone and then just let the person know how you feel.
That's I
It's
have
true.
no notes. That's beautiful. That's a perfect plan.
Yeah, I don't know. And if it doesn't work out, then just play. I will after if it's a rejection, just play. I will always love you by Whitney Houston.
That's a
I
good
was
one.
gonna say I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, but same era.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
gonna be the end of the world.
yeah.
It really will not. But at
I've had
least you'll probably find some peace in knowing that if you can continue with this person or not, you know?
I agree. I've had this conversation a little more frequently recently than I had in a while. Because I feel like with the springtime comes new beginnings. I feel like the fear in moving on, which I know has been our entire angle, was just fix it or move on. I understand the fear in that you meet someone and when you fall in love with them, it also kind of clouds that judgment, right? Like you think they're perfect for you because you've you've never met someone else that got you like this up until this point. This person is better than the last person.
Mhm.
Everyone that you meet has that chance, though. You got to give it to them. Like I
Yeah.
feel like we're all if you only you're bound to fall in love with one of them, right? You meet 1,000 people, you'll probably meet a couple more that match up to that first person. You just gotta, and it's a lot easier said than done. Get out there, put yourself out there. And I say this, as someone who lives in this little corner and does this with her time. Um,
Um,
at that, with that in mind, I feel like it's worth taking as advice, like as a note to self, as advice for you, as advice for anyone that has any sort of similar situation, right? Like learn to be by yourself, right? Like we all love love. That's the beauty of it, and that's also the downfall of it. Even if you want to be a bitter hater for the rest of your life, which I have gone through phases where I just wanted to be a bitter hater for the rest of my life. When it doesn't work out, it sucks, and you're like, why am I even putting myself at risk of feeling like this? Literally ever. It's the worst thing in the world. And then one day you wake up and you're like, it's a nice day today. I think I'm okay. You just have to give yourself the grace and the time to get through it and get past it.
Yeah.
Or do the me thing and send the guy you like a vine that he thinks is funny and get rejected on the spot, and then that'll make moving on a lot easier.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or, like
I'm
I said,
just
my first relationship, I shot my shot and it worked out.
Mhm.
There's different range. You can pine for somebody and eventually it pays off, or you know, you accept the circumstances and then you're able to find somebody else. Find someone who's gonna be better for you in the long run.
Yeah. There's like this thing like that has been trending on TikTok, like rejection therapy. Maybe practice a little bit of that and see if it builds some courage for you to ask that person.
yeah. Try to hit on someone that's out of your league. That is not this person. Maybe two or three,
That's
and
my hot
then you're gonna
take.
be
There's
like,
no
"Wow."
such thing as out of your league.
You're gonna be like, "Wow, like that's how it feels." Okay, I do agree to that. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me reword it. Go ahead and hit on someone that you feel like
Is unattainable.
you yes, and then once you get rejected, well, then again, you can be surprised, and that person can be like, "You know what? Yeah, I'm down." So don't ever sell yourself short. But if it happens the first time, second time, you're gonna be like, wow, okay, that's how rejection feels like. And then after that, it just gets a little bit easier. And then not only can this help you when it comes to love, but this can also help you too as well in your professional life. So, if you don't get that job, it's okay. It's fine.
Well, it's also
You know?
like it's like stunt doubles or gymnasts or Olympians like learning to fall. Once you learn to
Hmm.
fall, it hurts a lot less. So it's like
Yeah.
learn
Yep.
to handle rejection and you'll be okay.
Hmm.
It's not the end of the world. It's just one bad day.
It just makes you better. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, it just makes you
Yep.
better to deal with it. So
And especially
Yep.
if it's someone that you've known for 4 years, I'm guessing. Well, they said on and off. Or unless they mean they've been in love with them on and off. But like if it's someone you've known for that long, I feel like it's safe to assume you're friends. if you are the type of person that falls in love with your friends, learning to take rejection will be better for you as well, because then you'll be able to keep being friends regardless, like
Yeah.
crushes come and go, like it'll be okay. I promise it'll be okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good luck to them.
Good.
But I hope they don't wait
Again,
another
good luck
4
to
years.
them.
I hope my advice is just don't wait another 4 years. Just do it.
Agreed.
Just
That's gonna be the two sound clips. Dylan saying "move on," and Arturo saying "good luck to them."
Good luck.
It's like that meme. We were talking about culture earlier. It's like that meme where it's like your mom or your aunt will tell you the most tragic story about something happening recently in their life, and they're like, "Pero gracias a Dios, todo bien." Good
True.
luck to them, though.
Yeah.
All right, so we're nearing the top of our second hour, which is crazy. And again, I want to thank you guys for being on the show and talking with me. It's always nice to catch up, even in this format. I feel like it's necessary to check in with the homies. But I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask if y'all had any hot takes or confessions of your own.
I'll start just because my time limit right now is at the next actually 10 minutes actually. I only have 10 minutes, so I
Go
do
go go!
apologize that for in advance. Yes. So my confession is um there was a coworker of mine a couple years ago who for some reason again I do not understand why people decide that I am the person that is going to carry that burden with them or carry the secret with them. But um, long story short, this person was in a relationship at that time, um, and eventually they got married with this person, and now they have a family. But one night we were on the phone, and this had to confess to me that in another universe they were actually interested in their significant other's best friend, and that
No,
they always wished that it would have been that person instead of that person.
That's crazy.
damn, dude.
But now they're married and they have a family, so I'm just like
You let it go that far?
That
I'm
is.
like, damn. Like you just kind of sit there and contemplate, right? You're just like, I got secrets I could and something like this.
Dude, people are just
um,
afraid to move on.
yeah. So, but the thing is that like that best friend never saw that person
Mhm.
as something. They never actually did anything. They never talked. They never dated. It's just that I think initially when that person met
Oh, it was just internal.
their significant other, that significant
Mhm.
other had that best friend, and they were like, I think that person was mutually interested. But then once they got into a relationship with the person who they're marrying now, they realized that they wish it always would have been the best friend. Yeah.
That's tough, man. I feel like that's also the risk of getting into a relationship instead of just like talking to a million people is, you're locking yourself in and you're committing yourself to giving this one specific person a try when there's so many people in the world.
Mhm.
But that's why I'm of the mindset of like you got to speak up when you feel something, because otherwise you end up married with a life and a family with someone who you don't know if they're the person you like the most in this world. Like you're in love with their best friend and you never said anything. You're not lying to yourself, you're lying to your partner, you're lying to your child, and maybe
Yeah.
everything could have worked out, but you decided to keep it
Yeah.
inside. So if you decided to keep it inside this long, keep keeping it inside.
Yeah. I was just like, okay. I was like, well, I'm glad you told me this because obviously I can't tell nobody about this, and now I'm gonna have to live with it. So
Yeah, except for the podcast. The podcast doesn't count. It's like I'm not going to tell anyone
yeah,
except for my best friends and the podcast.
yeah, yeah, exactly. This is my way of confessing it. This is my way of releasing this secret that was. Yeah, I was just like, I could really just I could really do some damage with this. Not saying that I would. I never said that I
Right.
would. But
Right.
it's just one of those things where we're like, you know, like if somehow it was to get out, it would literally impact two sides of the family.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good confession, Dylan. I'm glad that we were able to
Mm.
provide this space of peace for you.
yeah, I feel much better. I feel 10 pounds lighter. If that helps.
God bless. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sucks. That really sucks.
yeah.
Well, good luck to them.
Good luck to them. All right, Churro, your turn.
I have a hot take. So I was talking to somebody about this. When it happened, it's about music.
Oh, hell yeah.
So my hot take is that Hairstyles album, Harris House, was actually a good album and it deserved winning album of the year. Um,
Who was it up
very me.
against? Who did it lose to?
So yeah, I have to pull it up. This was a stack. Like at that
I
time,
remember it
like
being
I
a
was so
stacked
mad.
year.
Yeah, I was so mad that Harry won because like I'm gonna tell you who was nominated. All right, so it was Ava's Voyage. I actually didn't listen to the album, but 30 by Adele, Un Verano Sin Ti by Bad Bunny,
Oh, right.
Renaissance by Beyonce,
Right.
Good Morning Gorgeous by Mary J. Blige, In the Silent Days by Brandy Carlisle, Music of the Spheres by Coldplay, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar, Special by Lizzo, and Harry's House.
I
That
gotta
was a
say,
stack.
yeah, that's a stacked category. My God. I feel like,
Yeah,
honestly, the only contender that I think would have had a fair chance would have been 30 by Adele. Harry Styles' album, I think overall, lyrically and musically, deserves the top of that category. And I say that with every pain in my heart for Bad Bunny, obviously. When Verano Sin Ti
yeah.
was good, I don't think it deserved the
Honestly,
top.
at that time, I was hoping it was Umberano Cinti because he would have become the first Latin artist,
Yeah.
but Harry cooked with that album,
Yeah. See, this is one of
and
these situations in which I'm like, DEI was not the problem. We can admit that Bad Bunny did not deserve the
yeah,
top just because he was Latino.
yeah, and I started listening to like more Harry Styles. Like obviously, I knew his like popular songs, but
Yeah.
when I listened to that whole album, like it was lyrically and all everything was just like so perfect.
Yeah. It's a well written album. That entire like I don't think there's a single skip song on there.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I think that and Umberano Cinti were like the top two albums in
Yeah.
that. I mean, obviously, it's Beyonce and Adele, but I don't listen to them a lot, so I don't
Yeah.
have like a
I don't
specific
listen to
opinion.
them either. I like I treat the Grammys the same as I do the Oscars. I will listen to the top album and the top song nominees, same I'll watch the top movies as much as I can. I liked the Adele album just because I think it's significant obviously in her career as an artist, but it's also
Yeah,
relatable because, she writes about her experience at that age. That's the whole purpose. I think lyrically it was a really strong album. Musically, I think a lot of the songs kind of sounded similar, but Adele does have a signature sound, so it works for her.
yeah,
And so I was like, with that all in mind, I think that one could have won. I
hmm
think Beyonce is great. I think Beyonce is overrated. I don't think she doesn't deserve her successes, but I feel like Beyonce's allowed to have a bad album or a bad song. And
yeah,
there were half of the songs I think were, decent, good, could and should have been radio hits. The other half to me just felt like an album trying to win. Like that's the reason people don't like pop a lot of the time is it's overproduced and it's too uncanny because it sounds like a song that should win, but it's not
yeah,
good if it stands by itself, right? It's just good because a huge team worked on it or because Beyonce put her name on it. And so
yeah.
that's how I felt about most of Renaissance, which I know is uh an
That's how I
unpopular
think that
opinion if of anything. But I liked Lemonade all the way through. Lemonade was a great album.
hmm
Renaissance to me specifically just it didn't hit. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this, and I also don't think this is what the category needed, right? Like you can make the argument where it's like, well, Harry Styles is just kind of like coasting off of One Direction, and other people write his stuff for him, and it's all like 80s inspired, and this song has the same chord progression as that song. And it's like, yeah, but cohesively as an album, it works. Like, I
Yeah,
have different thoughts, of course, about who deserves best artist or best song. But I think what people forget is an album has to tell a story. An album has to make sense together. You're not looking at individual songs. You're not looking at the individual artist.
yeah,
The album
exactly.
has to make sense. And Harry Styles was a cohesive album.
Yeah. So I now I see why, I think it
Yeah.
really deserved album of the year because it was really
That is a
it
hot
is really
take. That's crazy.
good. Don't come at me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
but but obviously all the albums were great, but I think that it definitely was the like you said, the most cohesive, the most like well put together album out of all of them.
Yeah. All right. I have a really quick hot take. Just to wrap us up, in preparation for next week's episode, which falls on the week of Cinco de Mayo. I've always been a
Mhm.
proponent of there's no real such thing as cultural appropriation, because unless someone is profiting off of something and calling it something it's not, right? So, for example, people calling it spa water instead of aguas frescas. That's cultural appropriation. You're stealing a thing and calling it something else. Minute Maid selling aguas frescas, I don't think that's exactly cultural appropriation. That's more so cultural fusion. It's a little annoying because other brands already make that. We didn't need a huge corporation to make it, but it's not exactly appropriation. They're calling it what it is, they're doing
Yeah.
it their way. Fine. My hot take today, I know that's already kind of a hot take, but that's been my opinion forever. My hot take today is that specifically on Cinco de Mayo, since we cannot combat cultural appropriation, such as celebrating it as a Mexican holiday instead of a battle between Puebla and France, I think there should be surge pricing at restaurants, at establishments. Anything that is Mexican should charge 10 times what it normally costs on Cinco de Mayo. Because if everyone's going to profit off of a culture that they, hate when it comes to voting in the polls, at the very least, Mexico should profit off of it monetarily. So it's like, all right, pull up to Taco Tuesday, pull up to Cinco de Mayo margarita bar night. I don't care. But you're going to be paying a premium for it. You don't deserve us.
$5 tacos each.
That's my hot take. I think we should have surge pricing.
Honestly, I agree. I mean, it's not a hot take for me. I actually completely agree. Um, yeah, I mean,
Like, I know y'all are going to do something for Cinco de Mayo anyway. I know you're going to pull up to your local Tex-Mex spot. I don't care at this point. Dress up like a donkey in a piñata for all I care. But you're going to be paying $50 for that margarita that's made out of a plastic bottle of Cuervo.
yeah, I do hate like Cinco de Mayo because that's my dad's birthday, and
Oh,
like
no.
you can't take him out to like restaurants because like he's not the type of person that likes to drink.
Yeah.
There's always people drinking during that day,
Yeah.
so kind of feel bad that his birthday kind of got reduced to just a drinking
Co-opted.
holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but I agree. Like, make these people pay. Like, fucking
Right.
some type of reparations or some shit,
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to pull up talking about how much you need chips and dips and marg to fix you. It's like, okay, great. Pay for it.
Yeah,
Like, it's the most frustrating thing to walk into the spot and you see a Trump flag on someone's pickup truck at the Mexican restaurant. It's like, okay, sure. You
yeah.
know what? Go ahead, be here. We're not a vengeful people. We're here to share our culture for a price.
Put a tariff on that right now. Tariff that
Yo,
margarita,
internal
and
tariffs, dude.
or use that as an excuse to bring your prices up. If you have a Mexican restaurant,
Yo,
use that
facts.
excuse.
But also, like, if I show up and I speak Spanish, don't charge me extra because I'm one of
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. Just like when you go to a restaurant, just show them the
Just show them
infamous
the
like
scar. Yeah.
yeah. That's my ID to get that a special
That's
discount.
so funny. Yo, right. Y'all really want an immigrant registry? You don't got to do all that. Just check if people have the smallpox vaccine. It's like we already took care of that for you. You're like 10 steps behind. Come on.
Yeah.
Dylan, final thoughts, closing remarks, and or statements, because I know you have to go.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Make sure that if I know some people have that pox vaccine, but if yours doesn't show as other people, make sure you have your matricula consular ready, or make sure that you're able to state, you know, the full history of the battle of, the French and Mexico, right? So, little fun fact before I leave. You know how, like, when you're talking to your parents and some of them are like irritated, and then you're asking them a question and they go like sepa, like sepa, like
Yeah.
sepa, like they give you that, they hit you with like that sepa, like like I don't know. Well, during the time when we were in fighting
I
with
think
the
I know where this is
French,
going.
yes,
Continue.
you know where
Sorry.
it's going. Yeah. There was what's it called? There was an establishment of French people that were in Puebla, and obviously, when the Mexicans would try to communicate with them in Spanish, and French, the way of saying "I don't know" is "Je ne sais pas." So, we just kind of adopted that and just we said "sepa."
Sepa?
So yeah, "sepa." So "sepa," oh no. So yeah,
That's so
so
cool.
This is why I
yeah,
love
let's just
language.
make sure. Yeah, so just make sure that you know the full history, and that and please, you will get banned and you will get put in a picture at the restaurant if your first words to come out of your mouth is, "Oh yeah, it's Mexico's Independence Day." Yeah, well, so
Ooh, boils my
mm,
blood.
yeah,
You're getting
yeah,
200% tariff for that.
yeah, yeah.
200's too low. 2,000, bro.
You're gonna get a move on from me and a good luck from Arturo. So yeah,
And when I'm the
so
Pope, you
yeah,
will not be getting a blessing from me.
mm, yeah,
Like, good luck paying for that.
Yo,
yeah.
facts. That's so funny. Arturo, closing remarks and or statements.
Um, about the hot take or just in general?
In general.
Well, nothing specific. Just thanks again for having me again here. It was pretty fun. Um, and yeah, I guess good luck to everyone and to the confessions. But yeah, no, yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. So, once again, you're listening to Podcast with a K, and I'm your host, Carla with a K. Signing off. Thanks to Dylan and Arturo. It's a treat as always. I have a cool little new guest episode coming for y'all, I think next week or the week after that. So stay tuned. More interviews also coming soon. I think this is a perfect ending spot. So Arturo, you gave us our halfway song. Dylan, give us our closing song for the show tonight.
It's gonna be a gentleman named Macario. I'm probably gonna say his last name wrong. Wait, hold on. I gotta make sure. I gotta make sure because I'm gonna then sound really, uh,
No,
really dumb.
put some respect on his name.
Yeah,
We'll do it right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so the song is gonna be by Macario Martinez.
Mhm.
If you have not heard of him, he comes from the same backyard from me, which is Mexico City. And this title in English is "Have a Nice Dream, Sweetheart." But I think in Spanish it translates to something better,
Sueña,
which
Lindo,
again,
Corazon.
there you go. She got me to it. Good. So, yeah, please listen to this song. Again, right, kid with really humble beginnings. Long story short, if you do look into his story, look into the story about who was his first coworker that attended one of his concerts, and what did that coworker did for him to achieve to get a new guitar, because that's a pretty cool story.
I'm gonna try to find this video link and put it in the descriptions. Super powerful story.
Yeah.
All of us in this episode specifically, we're all from different corners of the U.S., but we're all from Mexico, and we have the shared background of
Lang-
coming here with big dreams
Yeah.
and having to work our way up towards them. So this kid, I think, I'll go ahead and I'll speak for all of us. He's the type of story that you're like, man, what an inspiration. You know, like we're the type of people that doesn't let anything stop us, and he's the perfect example of that. So I'll make sure I'll link those in the chat. And
Sorry.
without further
I'm like, I
ado,
don't know what's gonna.
without further ado, here is Soña Lindo Corazon by Macario Martinez. Have a fantastic